What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today we're going to dive right in, and this is something that is occurring within the community in terms of our conversation with the combat for Gotham Knight, and the conversation that also kind of threads that into the Arkham Knight collection and all of that good stuff. Now, regarding the combat, there is something that I continue to see come up from time to time, because many times we can't help ourselves as Batman fans or even Bat Family fans. We say things like, man, the free flow combat in Arkham Knight's actually pretty cool. I wonder why Gotham Knights is probably not going to be adopting it. Here's the truth. I think Gotham Knights has some aspect of free flow to it. We just necessarily haven't seen the game played extensively for us to be able to understand exactly how that combat flows. I think there's kind of a minimal aspect of that free flow that you can see in some of the way the characters are fighting, even though we didn't get the best representation in terms of gameplay between Nightwing and Red Hood. But you can see with Batgirl, she seemed to be able to connect a lot more combos, and I think if the players or the characters all moved and played like her, we're going to be able to get some really cool combat overall in the game. And so that's where I want to argue that, yes, I think Gotham Knights has got that thing in an interesting way anyway. But there is something that I see coming up, and I really wanted to go ahead and just, throw down some of my own opinions regarding this. And that's the fact that some people consider the combat in Arkham games as button mashing. And so I know it's interesting just to see that this is kind of a comparison, and it's actually come from somewhere where people think as an Arkham player, all you do is just mash buttons, and then at the end of the day, you're able to achieve the results that it is that you're trying to achieve. Now, I understand one thing. Many video games, in terms of their combat, video game designers or combat designers can design their games in a few different ways. In one sense, they can design their combat to be really high level, where every well-timed attack and every well-timed dodge is actually rewarded, and ill-timed attacks and ill-timed dodges are heavily punished. An example of video games in this ilk are the Souls games. If you played maybe Elden Ring just recently, if you've played any of the Dark Souls games, you understand how important it is for you to be able to land your attacks. You understand how important it is for you to be able to watch your stamina gauge, because attacks drain stamina and dodges drain stamina. So you actually have to not necessarily just play, you have to manage how many attacks you're throwing down at a given time, as well as learning and understanding the enemy's attack patterns and some of the systems that you can actually put into winning an encounter. And this is one way to design your encounter. There's nothing wrong with that, and so you can do it that way, or you can maybe scale it down just a little bit, like say Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This is actually one that's pretty cool. The combat designer for that actually is Jason DeHarris. He's one of the combat designers. If you want to follow him on Twitter, please do. He has a blog where he talks extensively about all kinds of different combat elements that you can see in many video games. He's actually a beast, in my opinion, the only one that I've seen that's explained combat in a really cool way. You can look at the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and say, yes, it has a Souls element, but it also has a very casual element to it. As a Jedi, if you run around in that game, you can basically just, whack and slash your way at any difficulty and not feel the need to be an expert in the game. But at the same time, the game allows for you to be able to scale the difficulty all the way to Jedi Grandmaster, where every attack and every single maneuver that you do is very important. At this stage of the game, you will need to apply a lot of the different principles. You will need to find a lot more weaknesses in the enemies, and if you're able to block and parry on almost perfect fashion, you will be rewarded for high level and high skill play. So this is actually something cool. I think in that sense, the Arkham games embody something that's quite similar. You have different difficulty settings, and then at the same time, you have high-level challenges. You can run around and button mash your way through easy difficulty in most of the Arkham games without any problem. But if you really want to go into the high-level challenge, then that's where you actually have to apply a lot of the concepts, the principles, and extensive knowledge of the game in order for you to be able to succeed. You see, the combat maps are actually there to push the player to a different level in their gameplay. This is not something that a regular button masher can actually do. And so when I see people say, well, the Arkham games are button mash games, I'm like, well, yeah, you played it in a button mash way. Why not increase the difficulty? Why not play New Game Plus? Why not play like the game mode in Arkham Origins where it's permadeath? Or why not go into the challenge maps and turn off the indicators when the enemies are about to hit you that shows up. These are different ways that the developers have put as elements for you, the player, to choose what level of difficulty you want to engage the game in. In fact, all through this video, I've been playing the game using a controller display on the screen. And for those of you who know how the game works, you're probably looking and saying, where's the button mashing that this guy is doing on this particular fight sequence? The truth is, there really is no button mashing. I'm trying to achieve a very specific goal, and I understand that because I'm playing a much more difficult combat challenge, I have to be well calculated, I have to be well timed in my attacks, I have to be well timed in my dodges, the kind of dodges, and the enemy types that are all attacking me. I also have to know how to maybe use my special moves, which are actually a huge plethora of special moves, to be able to disarm the enemies, maybe destroy their weapons, destroy their shields, and do takedowns and all of the above. And sometimes, you know, you have to look and say there are enemies that are actually much more dangerous because of the weapons that they have in their hands. Like those enemies with the shock batons, man, for those of you who know, they've dropped many of your combos in the past. And so these are some of the things that you kind of have to take into a consideration when you look at the Arkham games. And before anybody says that there's button mashing, we have to say, come on, we got to dispel that notion, because button mashing, yes, can help you go through the game. There's nothing wrong with that. In easy difficulty or maybe even normal difficulty, you can get lucky. But as you start to improve, or as you start to give yourself more and more challenges, or want to engage in high level play, then that's no longer the case. It will take practice. It will take you learning and mastering a lot of different elements. And you're going to see that this Arkham games, they actually have a lot of depth in their combat. The question is Gotham Knights going to provide such a depth in its combat in order for us to be able to see? So far, we've only seen the gameplay in terms of the difficulty anyways. We've seen difficulty of low level in terms of the way they showed Red Hood and Nightwing. We don't know what difficulty Batgirl was playing in, but I can say for sure that if there's not necessarily anything that we can go with, we can only but just wait and see. Possibly in June, when they're showing more about the game, we're going to get some more elements regarding gameplay. So thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys so much, and hopefully we'll talk very soon. Peace out.